I know I've got some funky sunlight coming in on me, but we're just going to go ahead and do this video today. Let's remember we just passed the 2-year anniversary of the horrible, disgusting events that Hamas perpetrated on innocents in Israel, from Gaza as they attacked the kibbutzes in the area, the film or the music festival, slaughtered innocents, horrible, still holding hostages. And it was on Sukkot, which is the Feast of Tabernacles, representing the time in the wilderness, the children of Israel leaving Egypt and traveling in the wilderness. And So 2 years ago, it was kind of a double whammy in the sense of you had the last day of Sukkot, and then but it was also Shabbat, and so there's a lot of theories and a lot of ideas about the IDF and standing down, but this was all a horrific, evil, demonic attack on innocents by Hamas. And hopefully there's going to be some peace there in Gaza, and the destruction of evil will take place by Israel. So I just wanted to bring that up. That's happening right now. The anniversary was yesterday, as I'm filming this, Oh, film. Yeah. When have we used film recently? I know some still do. And I used to take a slide film with a camera years ago. I loved it. Still have my slides and my slide projector. That's crazy. Okay. A couple of things I wanted to talk about today. Thank you for your comments on the last video. So good. I asked for comments about being peacemakers, and there were so many good comments. Peacemakers versus peacekeepers was a big one. That there's contention in homes, there's contention in politics, there's contention on online formats, and because I said, I don't really see a lot of it, and I really don't. I mean, I see people who disagree, and there's a little bit of contention here and there, but I don't know. I guess it's all a matter of how thick your skin is. It's an interesting time we live in. To me, the contention it really boils down to more violence and really destructive rhetoric that can really incite people to do stupid, crazy things. Not just the normal disagreements or even "I don't like you" kind of things. I just, for some reason, I don't see that as an issue. But in talking about what's happened in the last week or so with conference, General Conference, and with the passing of President Nelson, and here's a couple of suggestions. Instead of saying the Quorum of the 12, Sue and I were in the temple this morning, and in the prayer that was offered in the endowment session was, praying for the Quorum of the 12. Well, there's actually 14. I submit that we should just say the Quorum of Apostles, because they are a quorum, and it doesn't, having 14 isn't the Quorum of the 12, right? So just a little thing there. You can put in the comments if you think that's even right or not. I feel it's good to do, because it can be confusing, because you go, oh, well, there's actually 14. And even when there's a first presidency, they're apostles, right? And so we have 15 men. I say we just say the quorum of apostles versus the quorum of 12. I know we want to be like the ancient church, and we say this is the ongoing restoration, but come on. It should be the ongoing revelation, not restoration, because restoration would infer that this was once in effect. But biblically, we don't have 15 men. We had 12 apostles and then Christ. And then Judas killed himself, and Matthias or Matthias, however you want to say it, I think is how it is. He replaces Judas. So you still just have 12 apostles. And even though you might say Peter, James, and John are the first presidency, they're within the 12. They're not 15. So to say that that was a restoration or anything, you could go, oh, well, we have conference sessions that are different now, and that's the ongoing restoration. I think that's a word that kind of bothers me a little bit, because restoring means that it once existed. And so I would, for me personally, I always, when I hear that phrase ongoing restoration, I always translate it in my head to ongoing revelation. And then it fits better. Then it fits better. You can let me know in the comments what you think about that. Okay, so President Nelson has passed. There's been a memorial, and there's now been the funeral. Some people were disappointed that in conference they didn't show a taped message, and that he did not read, and that President Oaks didn't read announcements of new temples. Let me tell you how I feel about it, and you can let me know how you feel, but I feel it was done perfectly. It wouldn't have been appropriate to show a taped message, there I go again, a recorded message, a video message, because he's no longer, President Nelson would have no longer been the prophet. And it could have been appropriate perhaps to have somebody read some comments, like quoting a past prophet in a sense like that. But to actually have a presentation from someone who's no longer the prophet I don't think it's appropriate. So I think that was done right. Now, as far as the announcing temples, let me tell you how I feel about that. And someone made this comment too on my channel, which I appreciate because I've said the same thing, maybe not on the channel, but to other people. When you announce temples that haven't been gone through any kind of process with government, county, planning commission, whatever, and then you just announce that there's going to be a temple somewhere, this can create a lot of animosity towards the church, because all of a sudden it's like, well, we've announced it, so we're going to build it. Well, people in rural Texas or even Utah might go, well, wait a minute, we don't really, we don't know what you're doing. We haven't heard anything, and then now you're announcing a temple. So you can see how this can create some enemies in the church, and we don't want that. It's not that we're here to please everybody, but we do have to go through the process of purchasing land, getting permits, getting approvals, submitting everything and all that. And so by just announcing, and this can be in other countries as well, but I'm talking about the United States right now. So I can see the wisdom in saying, until, and we really don't know. He just said for this conference, we're not announcing anything. President Oaks did. So I don't know, maybe next conference they'll announce 20 that haven't been approved or anything, but I doubt it. I think this is a good move. So I'm very supportive of that. Very supportive of that. So as far as the messages in conference, we all have access to almost immediately to the conference talks, the messages given. I just want to highlight a couple that stood out to me, and most of you have already mentioned them. I think I even went over them a little bit, but the Elder Brown, was that just so inspiring? And somebody said, I feel like getting up and running through a brick wall for the gospel, for the restored gospel of Jesus Christ. So his was so good and just a little out of character for the typical conference talk, very subdued, very controlled. And this was just something that I felt like this conference, there was like something lifted, like it was lighter. That's how it appeared to me, or felt to me. So I don't want to get into specifics about what Elder Brown said. I know he talked about the blessing of agency, which, quite often we get frustrated, like say as a parent or a grandparent, when a child goes haywire as far as the gospel of Jesus Christ is concerned. And we get so frustrated, we get hurt, we anguish over it, which is totally normal. But what I think, and we can get this from Elder Brown, what I think is we glory in the fact that that individual who decided to get off the path actually has the agency to do that, and the hope that they'll return. So I think we have to, when the great Elohim cast Satan down, it was because he took the agency, or wanted to take the agency of man away. Not that he did, but he wanted to, and get glory to himself. And I think sometimes as parents and grandparents, we can fall into that trap of wanting to control. Now, we can certainly grieve for the sins of another person, and especially if it's blood, but we shouldn't fall into the thing of, if I can just make them, get to a certain point to where they're embracing the gospel again. That's not the plan. So we should glory in agency. We should praise God for agency, and then that, I think, will help us deal when those situations come up. So I thought that was great. I'll tell you, okay, now I'm just going to be straight honest here because that's how I am. But Elder Yagi, I know him, and I don't want to be mean or critical or rude, but for some reason, he and I just haven't clicked, I don't think, and he'll never see this, so I'm not worried about that. So it's kind of like when you go to a movie with a crappy attitude and you think, I don't want to see this, I don't want to be here, I just, and then you get there and the movie is so good that it flips you. It turns from having a crappy attitude to going, this was really good. That means it was really good. Elder Yagi's talk did that for me. Now look, I'm opinionated, and and it's not that I have animosity towards him. We served as mission presidents at the same time in Utah, and I don't know. It's just he's who he is, and I'm who I am, and it's not like a guy that I'd want to hang out with. And I don't mean that in a mean or critical way. I don't. I'm not saying right or wrong, who, what. I'm just saying. I'm just being honest. But when I heard his talk and talking about the altar, wow, that was one of the great talks in conference. That was one of the great talks. I felt his spirit. The message was so powerful. And the sacrament table is an altar, other altars that we have. That was a great message. And I hope that we, now here's another thing, I'll be honest with you. Quite often I'll go, I'll listen to the Quorum of Apostles and really pay attention, but the others I'm just gonna kind of hit and miss kind of thing. That's bad on my part. I get it. And you can be critical of me on that, and I'll totally accept that. But his talk was riveting. It was riveting, and every aspect about it, and the spirit that it was in which it was given. Boom. Just on a personal level, what I got from, or what I was reminded of that, was when Sue and I were called to preside over a mission. We were called by then President Eyring, and he was in the first presidency. And it was such a special meeting, and he's just, you know what I'm talking about. And President Eyring talked about the sacrifice that's going to be required. And he said, sometimes in our lives, we have to put everything on the altar. And then he said, and burn it. And when he said that, I could just feel Sue. She was just next to me. We were both riveted looking at President Eyring in his office, listening to every word that he said. But I could feel a connection with Sue. And for those, I know there's some new listeners here. That's Sue's my wife, and she comes on here quite often. But I could just feel her like together, and that we were making a sacrifice, not in the sense of giving up like necessarily worldly things, although it was, but just putting it on the altar and saying, calling down from heaven and say, consume this. Whatever we're putting on the altar, burn it. It's yours. It's the smoke, the visual, everything about it, it's yours. And from that point on, the mission was it. We didn't know where we were going at that time. We just were extended the call to serve, and that a coming assignment would be given. Well, that there were a lot of things involved, and I won't get into that. But putting it on the altar and burning it from President Eyring was powerful. And I thought about that when Elder Yagi was speaking about that. That talk was so good and so powerful. Most of us will agree on Elder Holland's powerful talk. I've already mentioned this, but the Pool of Siloam, we've been there several times and recounted that story, and the spit and the dirt turned into mud, put on the eyes, and the simplicity. And then Elder Holland, President Holland, Elder Holland, who cares? these things that we put on ourselves to make sure we get the right. Brother Holland, he compared himself to that man who was blind and now can see. So powerful, so good. I'm trying to think. I had a couple of notes here, but I don't know if I'm even gonna Um, well, the one there's a few others, but I'm not going to get into those. Uh, I think President Oaks is the one that really nailed it for me. He is the watchman on the tower. And I want to refer to a couple of things here. And this gets into the, contention or being peacemakers. I think we have that kind of screwed up. I really do. I think we think of it as just being passive, being quiet, being accepting of everything, not having any kind of confrontation. I think we can contend with evil without being contentious, perhaps. But let me read a couple of things here. This is really interesting to me. And I'm thinking of President Oaks and his talk about the family, a proclamation to the world, and specifically about marriage and having children, being in the home, nurturing, and all those things. I put on a few comments where people go, well, it's too expensive. You can't have a house. You need 2 incomes. And it's so interesting to see that people can have differences and disagreements. I would say go forward with faith, or faith precedes the miracle. And if you build it, they will come, kind of thing, Field of Dreams. But I also understand, and I'll get into this at the end of the video, that sustaining a leader doesn't always mean that you agree with everything. But I think what we saw and heard from President Oaks was a watchman on the tower. I'm going to go to Isaiah 62. I love this. Isaiah 62, verse 1, and then I'll get over to verse 6. But verse 1, here's the heading in our scriptures for this. In the last days, Israel shall be gathered, Zion shall be established, her watchmen shall teach about the Lord. They shall lift the gospel standards, they shall be chosen and redeemed. So verse 1, for Zion's sake will I not hold my peace. I will not hold my peace. Now, you gotta kind of put this all together here. And for Jerusalem's sake, I will not rest until the righteousness thereof go forth as brightness, and the salvation thereof as a lamp that burneth. And then verse 6. This whole chapter, it's not that long, is really, really good. And I think it's worth reading the whole thing. But verse 6, I have set watchmen upon thy walls, O Jerusalem, which shall never hold their peace day or night. Ye that make mention of the Lord, keep not silent. Keep not silent. There has to be a warning. So Copilot, the AI version on what I have on my computer, some of you have chat. I have Copilot I use. Here's what it says. In this context, that what I just read, not holding your peace means refusing to remain silent, especially in the face of injustice, spiritual urgency, or divine calling. Isaiah is expressing a deep commitment to speak out and act until God's promises for Zion are fulfilled. It's a prophetic stance, a persistent advocacy, intercession, and proclamation. Proclamation. This is from AI. It's a proclamation. And that's exactly what President Oaks was doing, in my opinion. Now, some people might say, ooh, that's a bit contentious. Ooh, that's causing a little bit of grief. Ooh, well, he's a watchman on the wall. I loved it. I loved it. I don't know if I verbally cheered, but I cheered inside. I know. I stood up. Sue and I high-fived each other. It was so good. Now, having said that, let me just read a couple more things, okay, about that. What AI said about holding your peace and what that means. Okay, the prophet refuses to be silent until Zion's righteousness and salvation shine forth. This isn't just a poetic, it's a mandate. Isaiah is acting as a watchman. And then a role echoed in verse 6. So that was verse 1. These watchmen are intercessors, truth tellers, and guardians of restoration. Isn't this so good? You know, I know AI is what it is, but it has been, I'm just really new at using AI, but I love it. I absolutely love it. Proclaiming the connection to appointed times and feasts. This watchman on the wall has to do with Jewish feasts as well, which is really interesting. Okay, probably enough of that. I'm going to try to keep this video a little bit shorter than some of mine others. Now, some have said that my comments and comments of others have had the feeling that we or I'll just say me, because I can't speak for other people, but that it sounds like I'm not sustaining or didn't feel a part of President Nelson when he was the prophet. And because I said, you know, I didn't feel like I was a part of something, and now I do. I just have to say, for the record, I totally sustained President Nelson in his calling as our president of the church, prophet, seer, and revelator. I did. But sustaining doesn't always mean agreeing or feeling connected to, okay? Let's go to AI again. Okay, the question is, does sustaining all mean agreeing with? And it says here's what AI had to say, and I feel like it represents how I feel. The answer is not at all. Sustaining a leader doesn't mean blind agreement. In many religious, organizational, or civic contexts, sustaining a leader is more about supporting their role, praying for their success, and engaging constructively even when you disagree. Here's a breakdown of what sustain can mean. Support. You recognize their authority or stewardship and commit to helping them fulfill their responsibilities. And then in agreement, you may or may not share their views or decisions, and that's okay. So, and it goes on. You can do it yourself. You can find out, you know, what your source of AI or just how you feel about it. But I was in disagreement with the encouraging, strongly encouraging the vaccine, and trusting government and medical professionals. I felt very uncomfortable about that. Now, that just because I disagreed with that doesn't mean that I didn't continue to sustain that. And that actually, you know, was from the first presidency, and then the continuing, you know, the wearing a mask and all that stuff, and all the policing and all the virtue signaling, you know, that took place during that time period, and still does to some degree. You know, it was an interesting time, but a very growing time for Sue and I, especially together, where we really worked through. It was awesome. It was a great experience, actually. I don't feel bad about it. Stronger commitment to the restored gospel of Jesus Christ, stronger commitment to to service and being a good person, but still listening to the Holy Spirit for ourselves and our family. And I love that. I love that ability to work through that. And many of you did the exact same thing. So from that came a lot of different ways of looking at things, and not always just going, well, this is what I'm being told, so this is what I have to do. And that I don't think fits into the gospel of Jesus Christ and to agency in general. Sustain, yes. Respectfully disagree at times, absolutely. So that's where there were things that I just didn't feel a part of, and the other thing would be maybe the direction of like what Deseret Book, BYU, the alphabet community, seemed like there was much support for that in the church, where it was just like, gosh, this seems pretty basic scripturally, that this is disgusting, deviant, abominable lifestyles that are going on. And it should be very clear. And the proclamation declares things like that. Now look, you can not go and attack people and belittle people, but you can attack behavior. And by attack it, you can declare what Scripture says about it. You can go to Romans chapter 2 and say, let's not skip this in the gospel doctrine lesson, like our manual did. So there were a lot of things going on that just seemed to, I was like, what the heck? And some of the disgusting books at Deseret Book, still, I'm just like, what the heck is going on? So those are things that I felt like I was, I was kind of out of it. I was outside looking in a little bit. Now I don't feel that way. I just don't. And it might, I might be, this might be a 6-month thing, and then next conference comes and it's all back, to where many of you feel more comfortable. I think there's a lot of people who don't feel comfortable hearing plain, boom, this is it, this is the way it should be, and they're more comfortable with, let's love and accept and let's not judge, let's not contend, those kind of things. Let's see if there was anything else that I wanted to bring up from my feelings about conference and these other things. I can't really, I know there's one other thing and I just can't, I can't pinpoint it. So it must be a stupor of thought, must be something I should keep my mouth shut on and not bring up. But I'm just being open, honest with you on this. I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm not trying to escalate things or exaggerate anything. I'm just expressing this because here's why I do it. I know there's other people that kind of feel the same way. We all don't feel exactly the same way, but we're similar. And if you know that someone else is in that situation, and you go, hey, I can still be part of the gospel of Jesus Christ because I know there's somebody else that feels the same way and they're still part of it. And that's really kind of been the purpose of this for a long time, of this channel. So that's it for this video. We will continue. We'll have more things coming up. I do have some more things I want to talk about that I just haven't had a chance to fully study it, but we're definitely going to have some good discussions. We'll be taking off to Israel Egypt and Jordan here pretty soon in a few weeks. I'm going to do some live feeds from there. Won't be live, sorry, but I will record some videos. And when we get back to the room, I'll upload them. It's going to be a little tricky because we are going to be literally running on these tours. There's so much to see, so much to do. And I'm so excited to be able to do that. God bless. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.